You guys are doing good work. We get to do really good work. And when all of the junk gets cleared away and we're able to focus on this student in front of us and what they need and how we can be helpful to them, I know that's why you're in higher education. I know that's why you're doing the jobs you're doing. And so I'm very grateful for you. And also, I am so eager for us to get back to a time when we can spend our time with students, being a beacon to them, finding them when they're struggling, keeping them off the rocks, helping them to recover and to be successful. And that's really what Lighthouse Week is about for us. Good afternoon, everybody. I am Rachel Phillips Buck, and this is Cap and Gown. This is our 21st episode. Michelle, hi. Good to see you. I'm so glad for those of you who join us either every Tuesday, not every day, that's a bit much, every Tuesday, or make time during your week to come back and listen to Cap and Gown. I'm really grateful for you. I am by myself today. So Anthony is off this week. He's actually in Dallas, but Matt is fishing this week. And so I am all by myself. So you guys we're going to have to rely on audience participation. So I don't feel like I'm just speaking into the ether and no one is paying attention to me. I'm happy to see my friends' names appearing to join us today. We're going to do things a little bit differently today because not only because I'm by myself, but also because I have been talking to many of you and we are all sort of in a state. And so as I was thinking about what we needed to talk about today, I'm always encouraging you guys and driving you forward and saying what's new and what else are we going to do. But I'm afraid that we're in a place where we just need to do a little self-care, take care of ourselves, try to figure out what's happening internally so that we can be successful when our students actually come to campus in a few short weeks. So you guys know we are in August already, which seems absolutely impossible. I feel like June and July, we're all sort of like, we've got forever until fall semester starts. And now we find ourselves in August, and I know you guys are ramping up and you're thinking about all of the new things that you have to do. And also things are pretty discombobulated in terms of like what's happening on campuses and what the plan was. And then with Delta, how it's changing. And so I know there's a lot of turnover. And so I just wanted for us to pause for a little while and talk about how things are going with us. So remember, I'm a licensed counselor. So if you need a little bit of counseling, I'm happy to give that to you today. One of the advantages to joining us live is that you can ask me your questions and I can manage them as you ask them. But if you are new to joining us, all of the episodes that we've done are available on our TAP link. So it's taplink.cc/Ferris resources. You can get connected with us there. You can see our previous work. You can sign up for Zoom so that you can join us live. All of that stuff will be there, all of the resources that we've pushed out. So we'd love for you to join us there. I have to say, first of all, the last 2 weeks, so last week and then just the last 2 days of this week, I've spent a lot of time with so many of our schools, our Cap and Gown community, as well as our Ferris 360 community. And first of all, I'm really grateful for you guys. I'm so grateful that you join us. I'm so grateful for your support. I, a lot of times, just sit in a room kind of with Trey sitting over there and Matt sitting to my left, and I say things. And so I'm really grateful for your support and encouragement, that it's helpful to you and that it's interesting, and that you're encouraging your colleagues to join us. I want this to be a really productive time for you, something that you look forward to, and that you walk away with both feeling encouraged and also really well informed. So thank you, Cap and Gown community, for joining us. It really means a lot to me. Also, I want to talk to our Ferris 360 community. So we are about to push out a bunch of new features for Ferris 360, as well as a 12-week fall semester plan. That's just like bite-sized things every week that you can be paying attention to within our software so that you have it set up to deliver really great student success and support. So look for an email from me about that. And please make sure that you have sort of added as an accepted sender support at ferrisresources.com and Rachel at ferrisresources.com. We send a lot of information through email. And also we have our help center page where you can subscribe to get all of our new features that we're always pushing out to try to make your work better. So I'm very grateful for this community. I'm so happy that you have joined me. So first of all, Matt is fishing today. He's fishing in Colorado, and he has a family competition where every August, all of his family goes and they all fish, his mom and his sisters and his aunt and their kids, and they have a trophy. And this is the current winner. He just caught it like 2 days ago, but it's a 20.5-inch trout. And so he's very excited and very hopeful this is going to bring home the trophy for him. So that is what he's doing right now. He asked me if I wanted him to join me. And I said, are you going to be on the stream fishing while you join me? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, no, that's going to depress everybody. Just go do whatever fishing work you're going to do, and we will muddle through without you. So that's what he's doing. So you guys, I have a lot of State of the Union for you today. Also very exciting is Lighthouse Week. So I want to talk a little bit about that. This is our annual Ferris celebration week where we award prizes to our best IT person, our best student success professional, and then an entire institution. Blair is joining us, and she has won, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but she's a winner of that award. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Lighthouse and why it's relevant to Ferris. And then I'm going to go on to talk about things that you can control and things that you cannot control. So that is kind of the lineup that we have today. I have a couple of polls for you because I'm really curious about what's going on. And then as always, please feel free to chat to me, even if it's just to say hello. But if you have questions or if you have great things that you're doing on your campus, I'd love to hear about those as well. So let's jump in to State of the Union. Rachel Elam is going to help us by chatting links to some of these articles that I'm talking about. I want to start with college COVID processes. So first, I'm going to tell you that I found an article that's like all of the latest COVID updates for higher education. Rachel has just chatted it to you. I was going to print it and just like go through some of the highlights, but it's 75 pages long. And I think that's irrelevant because everything that we were planning in April and May for this fall, I feel like in the last couple of weeks has started to really change. And so you can go and look at everything that's happening there. I'm very curious to see what's actually going to happen on our campuses in the fall. It's a little bit different than last summer, remember, because last summer we had not really done this before. And so we were just kind of, walking in the dark. We didn't know, but now we have some experience. And what's really making it more difficult is that with Delta and the way things are changing in our communities, it's calling into question some of our plans for no masks or even thinking about vaccinated people getting COVID. There's just a lot up in the air. So go look at the 75 pages of the latest news in coronavirus and higher ed if you want to see kind of how crazy town that is. But I do want to highlight a couple of things that I think are really interesting. So you and I have talked for a long time about how schools are either using incentives or they're using sort of a punitive, like, hey, if you don't do this thing, this is going to happen. So I want to highlight some of those things that are happening on campuses. And if you have an incentive that you're rolling out on campus, either this incentive will come into play if like 70% of our student body is vaccinated, or even if it's just an individual incentive where you're saying, if you get the vaccine, here's what we're going to give you. I would love to hear about that. So please chat to us about that as I go through some of these. So the University of Wisconsin, which does not have a vaccine mandate, is going to offer students on all campuses across the state a chance to win 70 scholarships valued at $7,000 apiece, which is about 2/3 of their tuition for the year. So that's a really interesting process where they're saying, we'll give you money if you can show us that you've been vaccinated. We also have Rhodes College, who is punishing students. So if you are not vaccinated, they're going to charge students a $1,500 per semester fee. And that fee is to cover all of their testing costs. So what they're saying is, if everybody gets vaccinated, we can move towards full capacity and reduce risks and all of that. But if you're choosing not to, then we're going to ask you to cover the cost of your testing to make sure that you don't have COVID. So that's kind of another approach. Maryland residents, the governor is giving, for students between 12 and 17, they can get a $50,000 college scholarship if they get vaccinated, which is really interesting because that's obviously not going to be for 2 to 5 years in the future. But a $50,000 scholarship is pretty amazing to offer to students to get vaccinated. And then the last one is University of Nebraska at Lincoln. Their incentive is that every week a faculty member is going to receive one reserved and named, which faculty like, parking spot for a year. So it's going to say Dr. Rachel Phillips Buck. I'm going to get to park there for a year. You also can get Husker football season tickets, volleyball tickets, among other prizes. And then students are going to get a weekly prize, such as a smartwatch or a free weekly dairy store ice cream for the academic year. And then at the end, they're going to do a grand prize, 5 prizes worth about $10,000 for students. And then for employees, they're going to get a trip to Ireland to watch the Huskers play football against Northwestern in Dublin in August 2022. So I'm really curious how this is going to shake out, if schools are going to put on sort of consequences for students not getting vaccines, or if they're going to have incentives, or if they are just going to wait and see what happens. You'll remember that we have talked weeks and weeks ago about the importance of accessibility. So if you're requiring vaccine, you need to make sure that you're making that accessible for your students, so they're not having to take off work or use gas money, or somehow are being punished because they're not able to go find a place to get a vaccine. So vaccines are the big question, again, especially with what's happening with hotspots and Delta variants. Okay, the next one I want to talk about is, I love this title. It's A College Leader Takes His First Virtual Class. So this is Roger Martin, who is the Dean of the Harvard Divinity School. He was the past president of Monrovian, and also of our school, Randolph-Macon. He was also the president there. He was doing some research and he decided to take an online class. And so Rachel has chatted you the link. I would really recommend that you read the whole thing, because it goes through his experience, his expectations, how hard the faculty had to work in order to deliver that really well. But his sort of conclusions coming out of that experience was, first of all, he loved the class. He thought it was really difficult, but also a great experience. He's encouraging schools to think about new hybrid courses, which are kind of a combination of in-person versus videoed lectures. He says that this really makes the case for the flipped classroom. So the idea that you're going to listen to a lecture and then we're all going to come together in person and we're going to talk about the reading and the lecture that you've heard, which I am a big proponent of. And then this one I think is funny, because we should be doing this. You should be doing this on your campus, online office hours for students who have to commute to class. So if you think about financial aid, the business office, advising, virtual libraries, there are a lot of students who, 9 to 5 does not work for them. And so making sure that they have accessibility to the professionals on campus when it makes the most sense for them, I think is going to be really amazing. And he suggests that you resource these things. First of all, that you have a technology staffer whose job is to help faculty in creating those online classes. So it's not just purely technical, it's that they have some expertise in how to deliver online classes. I know some of you have that. I think it's going to become even more important in the semesters to come. He encourages our schools to do like 3-minute faculty or 3-minute videos for faculty meetings. So if you have an all faculty meeting, just play a 3-minute video that's like, here's an idea that you may not have thought of when you're delivering your online classes, so that they don't have to sign up for something new. You're just meeting them where they are and telling them about new things that might exist. And then also a special orientation for new faculty and adjuncts to help teach them about online and hybrid techniques, which I think really he's talking about it for faculty, but I think for any of us who are trying to deliver things online, there's obviously some expertise and some learning that can come from those that have been doing it for years, those that just decided to do it in the past year and a half because they had to. There's definitely some knowledge that we can be sharing with each other. So I think that's a great read. Also, I want to brag about one of my friends. So Miranda Powers at Bethel, this is one of our clients. She just won an award, the Character Builder Award, for her work during COVID. Her leadership and guidance from a student life perspective through the pandemic has been really remarkable. And she has done a great job in helping the Bethel community thrive through that process. She really cares for her team and her students and is working tirelessly. So I'm so happy to see her get recognition. She is a powerhouse in the area of student success and student support. So congratulations, Miranda. I'm really happy for you. Okay, 2 more. This one is really interested, and I would like for you to give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, depending on what you think, if this is a good idea or if it's a terrible idea. Harvard's Kennedy School just announced that they are going to sort of create hybrid positions where you have admissions counselors who are also going to be financial aid counselors. So they said, to further strengthen our efforts to attract the best students, we're restructuring our enrollment services team. Going forward, we will merge our currently separate admissions and student financial services teams into one group. So everyone is going to be responsible for all aspects of recruiting, awarding aid, and yielding our students. So you have a lot of people who are saying, I've never seen that done before. It's a pretty novel approach. Also, the naysayers are saying, man, financial aid is a regulatory environment and it's really, really specific. And so there's a little bit of question of whether or not admissions counselors would be able to administer financial aid well, and questions about, like, is that fellowship and institutional grants, or are they really going to process FAFSAs and manage direct loans requirements and processes? How is that all going to work? So I'm really curious about the idea that you would have one person who would manage both of those. It seems to me like it's 2 different kind of personality types, but maybe because it's a grad school, it will be a little bit easier. And also reminds me of a model that I think is really curious, which is where you have a rotating group of admissions counselors and success coaches. So you have admissions counselors who enroll and admit a group of students, and then they follow them through their freshman year as their success coaches. And then you have another group of admissions, and then they just keep rotating off so that you have the students that you recruited for their entire freshman year as a way to try to help them be successful. Because so many times, like, admissions counselors are who students are thinking about, are on their team and are going to help them succeed. So really interested about that kind of job sharing as well. If any of you guys do that, or if you have strong opinions about it, I would love to hear that. Okay. And then the last one, in light of everything that we've talked about in terms of doing something new, thinking through new things, we have Unity College's Dr. Corey, who has a great article about how to change what you're doing if your college is slumping. Although I would say for all of us, I think it's really helpful. He's kind of being critical of this idea in higher education that we have committee decision-making to garner support, but instead we should be talking to subject matter experts who are going to guide us in the right direction. And so his suggestions to explore are in-person versus remote versus hybrid. I think we're all at that place where we're starting to think about how can we, have some combination of those things. Really smart budgeting. Going to have to get tighter, and we're going to have to get wiser about how we use our budget. Freeing higher education from tradition, which I think is super helpful. And then also this one, which I have thought a lot about, which is different institutions, different ideals. He says, we're all looking at higher education as a single entity, but we're not. So we know that Montreat College is not going to be University of Texas. And we have different populations that we're serving, and we have different things that those populations need, and different endowments and different budgets, and we're attracting different faculty. And so instead of talking broadly about higher education, we need to be a little bit more granular as we're thinking through what's happening with our individual schools. So that's a great article for you guys to look through if you're looking for ways to be inspired to do new things. All right, that is the State of the Union. Everything's kind of crazy town, and we're going to see. In fact, I was talking to my friend, Dr. Woosley, yesterday, and we were talking about scheduling webinars for September. And we both were like, we do not know what's going to happen. We're going to wait till October because we've got to see how this is all going to shake out. So we will wait until then to make a decision about the next things that we want to talk to you guys about. Okay, so, before I get on into burnout, I want to talk about Lighthouse Week. Lighthouse Day is actually August 7th. This is a week that we celebrate every year at Ferris Resources. If you do not know, our name comes from the first lighthouse in Alexandria. And when Matt named our company, it was really important to him that we were named something that was about being a beacon of hope, that was about helping find people who are struggling, keeping them off the rocks, supporting our communities and collaborating with each other to keep everybody supported and successful. And so that's where Ferris Resources come from. He also felt really strongly about resources, that he didn't just want us to be a company, but a collection of resources for our partner schools and our community to be able to lean on. And so every year we celebrate Lighthouse Week. You'll notice we're pushing out on LinkedIn, I think Facebook and a couple of other places, some words that are really important to us, words like purpose and community, and just trying to be mindful of the work that we do that is so important to so many students. I think especially as we're in the middle of a lot of uncertainty, you guys are doing good work. We get to do really good work. And when all of the junk gets cleared away and we're able to focus on this student in front of us and what they need and how we can be helpful to them, I know that's why you're in higher education. I know that's why you're doing the jobs you're doing. And so I'm very grateful for you. And also, I am so eager for us to get back to a time when we can spend our time with students, being a beacon to them, finding them when they're struggling, keeping them off the rocks, helping them to recover and to be successful. And that's really what Lighthouse Week is about for us. So we have 3 new winners this week. We are going to announce them on Friday, so you have to stay tuned for that. But all of them are great shining examples of this work that you guys are committed to. So I'm so grateful to be able to be part of your community. Okay. So I want to talk about burnout. As I said, I have talked to so many of you over the last week and a half, and it's a different sort of energy than we've had, in my opinion, for all of COVID. I feel like there's really a lack of communication a lot of times for people who are on the front line. So maybe you don't know what's happening on your campus, that hasn't been communicated. You're worried about a bunch of things. You don't know what to do. You're feeling a little bit overwhelmed. And so I've given you this definition before, but I just want to remind you, when we think about burnout, this definition is coming from Herbert Freudenberger. He wrote it in 1975, and it was specifically about career burnout. There's a lot of other kind of burnout that we're talking about, that we're experiencing, whether that's with our family or interpersonally, but let's just think about career for a minute. A decreased sense of accomplishment. So nothing I do makes any difference, which is really difficult when you are fighting a tide of a pandemic and large institutions and government and all of the craziness that's going on. And I know some of you are feeling like it doesn't matter. Like, I don't know why I would have new plans. I don't know why I'm going to pursue these things, because nothing I do is going to make any difference to what's going to happen in the fall. So that's sort of one of those pieces that if that resonates with you, that's a little bit of a clue that maybe you are in a place of burnout. Also, emotional exhaustion, which I don't know anyone who's not emotionally exhausted. This idea of just being tired from carrying too much for too long. And that is caring for our students, thinking of new things, trying to make sure that we are responsible citizens, caring for our families. There's just so much emotional toll that has come for us. And I always say, you have to remember that emotion is real. Although we cannot see it, it takes energy. It takes a lot of work. It is very heavy to carry. And so if you feel overwhelmed by carrying copious amounts of emotion, you're not alone. And also, it is fatiguing. It is very hard to do that for an extended period of time. And we have done it for a really long time. So if that resonates with you, again, another sign that you might need to consider how you care for yourself. And then the last one, which I think is particularly difficult for this audience, which is depersonalization, the depletion of empathy, caring, and compassion. And I think there's a lot of really great examples of this that you can see both for yourself and as you're looking at your community and, what's happening for students and for parents and for coworkers. But I would just say this one is especially hard for higher education because a core thing that we do is we provide empathy and we care for our students and we give them compassion. And so when we find ourselves just unable to extend that, especially in a time where so many of our colleagues and our students really need it, I think it gets to the heart of sort of our identity and can be a really big struggle. We want to be able to do those things. It's just that we are so taxed and we really don't know what to do. So I'm doing a poll just to see where you guys fall. I would say I'm probably 3 out of 3 on that. I think I have both this depletion of empathy, unfortunately. I'm pretty tired, have that emotional fatigue, and then also a decreased sense of accomplishment. So I don't see anybody saying there's 0 out of 3. We have one with 1 out of 3, and then it looks like 63% of you are 2 out of 3, and then 25% of you 3 out of 3. So this is just a very real thing. And I wanted to spend some time today. Like I said, I don't have Anthony's energy in our podcast today, and I don't have Matt's sort of analytical thoughtfulness. So you just get me, and I'm a counselor. And as I've talked to you, I just wanted to spend a little bit of time reassuring you that whatever you're feeling is totally normal, that we're all at that place, and also giving you just one tiny tool that might help you as you're trying to manage both being burnout and wanting to be hopeful and excited about the fall. So I want to talk to you about things that you can control. This quote, which comes from a Stoic philosopher, I don't know how to say his name, Epictetus. I'm sure that's wrong. I'm not great at phonics. Someone can chat me what the phonetic sound out is. But he says, happiness and freedom begin with clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control and some things are not. The chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals, not under my control, and which have to do with the choices that I actually make. And I think this is especially relevant as we're thinking about the fall semester, because we can't control our students. We can't control our institutional policies or the rules or the expectations. We can't control any of that. We can't control what's happening with the pandemic. We can't control that stuff. And so living in a place where all you're thinking about is stuff that you cannot control is totally exhausting and puts you, is going to increase your burnout, right? So you guys see, I have up this continuum. We have on the vertical axis, focus, and ignore. And then on the horizontal one, cannot control, can control. So in quadrant 1, that's where we're focusing on what we cannot control. And that's just a waste of energy. There's nothing you can do. So if you spend all of your day thinking about, I wish I could do this, and I wish this, and they should do this, and why don't they, and all of that stuff, you are using energy that is not going to make any positive impact. And let me say, I understand it, because so many of you have your boots on the ground and you see things that are coming and you're concerned about, are they paying attention to this? Are they aware that this is what's going to happen with students? Have they thought through this specific thing that's happening? But you get yourself in a place where you're just in constant anxiety because you are worried about things that you cannot do anything about. And that is as exhausting, if not more exhausting, than carrying this emotional baggage of just like, I'm so sick of carrying all the feelings for all of this time. So this quadrant of wasting energy, focusing on things you cannot control, will make your life more difficult, and it's just going to be overwhelming for you. And there's nothing to be done. If you cannot control it, you cannot focus on it. It will wear you out. Okay. The second quadrant is being paranoid, which I don't love that language, but this is when you are ignoring things you can control or you can't control, which I will tell you guys, I think I've said to you before, I'm an Enneagram 7, which, you know, it means I like things to be happy. I'm very encouraging. I'm optimistic. Also, when things are a total wreck, I tend to not want to pay any attention to them. Also not healthy, right? We do have to have this balance of like, I recognize there are things I cannot control. I am not going to focus on them, but I'm also not going to ignore them because I have to make good choices. I have to accept what exists and be aware that there's just things that I'm not going to be able to exert any control over. And so that ignoring things you cannot control is also unhealthy for you. It means that you are not making strategic, thoughtful choices because you're kind of being an ostrich and saying, I'm going to put my head in the sand and I'm going to pretend like everything's great. So please don't do that either. That also is exhausting, although in a very different way. Okay, quadrant 3, and this is when you are ignoring what you can control. So you are saying, I have some things I can control, but I'm totally ignoring them. I understand why you would be doing that, because you're tired, because you're spending all of your energy focusing on things you can't control, right? But this piece where you actually have things that you have autonomy over, whether that's your own self, whether that's your brain, whether that's your programs that you can control, or the way that you run your office, or the way that you engage with students, ignoring those things because you're spending energy in places that it's never going to make a difference is wasting opportunities. And so you hear me saying week after week, like, let's find the places where we can do something, exert our energy and our control there so that we are not wasting opportunities that would result in some really amazing things if we focus our time and energy there. Okay, and then lastly, we have sunshiny face, which is focusing on things that we can control. This means you're being super intentional about your attitude. You're choosing where to spend your energy. You're focusing on things that you have some control over. And this is going to help keep you positive and energized and motivated. And so that is the place where even in the midst of burnout, even in the midst of feeling super overwhelmed and really tired, pick the things that you are in charge of and focus your energy there, because that's where you're going to be able to see some of those changes happening. So I'm really curious for you guys, where do you feel like you're living most often these days? Do you feel like you're really stuck in this place where you're just thinking about all of the things that are going on that you don't have any control over? Are you in a place where you're kind of burying your head in the sand and saying, I don't want to think about all the negative things, I'm just going to ignore those? Are you wasting opportunities because you're not spending your energy in a place where you can control certain things? And then how many of you feel like you're really in this optimal place where you're able to speak into the things that you can control? And I appreciate our listeners are like, I'm not hiding my head in the sand. Like, I'm fully aware of what a wreck everything is, and I'm taking all of that in. Some of you are wasting opportunities because you're ignoring what you can control. Some of you, which I would like, whoever said they're in the sunshine state of mind, I would like for you to email me so that you can do a cap and gown with me, because we could all take your guidance. That would be super helpful. It looks like a lot of you are in that wasting your energy. And the reason we're talking about this today is because I have found that quadrant to be pretty common with the people that I'm talking to, with our clients. And then also, it is just so exhausting to live there. So, we have a couple of people in the sunshine state of mind. I love that. That is how you're going to be able to use your energy wisely instead of feeling like I'm exhausted and I'm not making any forward motion. So thank you guys for responding. Really interesting, I think. All right, you guys, we're on the home stretch. My goal is that if we finish early, you will be able to take a little time to just sit quietly in your office if that energizes you, to get coffee if that energizes you, to go talk with a friend if that energizes you. I appreciate Michelle saying, for sure, we go between all of these different things. And so the mindfulness, when you find yourself in that place where you're wasting your energy, to be like, hey, I need to come back to the places where I have control over the thing, I think is a really important kind of self-talk to be able to give yourself. Okay, this quote from Maya Angelou: if you don't like something, change it. If you cannot change it, change your attitude. Again, this speaks to what I'm encouraging you to do to make sure that you're focusing your energy where you can change things. I want to tell you a story that came from my work in food service. So years and years ago, I worked in a bakery, and every single day I would have this little old lady come in, and we had day old bread and like day old muffins and cookies and stuff. And she would come in every single day, and she would come to the counter, and she would be like, and it's all in front of her, and she would be like, what do you have for day old today? And I'd be like, this. And she's like, oh, well, what's that? And I'm like, those are lemon poppy seed muffins. Well, what's that? Those are chocolate muffins. What's that? Every single bag. She said, what's that, to every single bag. I'm like, it's all here. I don't understand why it's hard. Like, why are we doing this every single day? And so it got to the place where like I would see her coming, and I would be so mad and stressed out. This little old lady would come in and ruin my day. And I would try to preempt her. Like, she would come in and be like, lemon poppy seed, chocolate muffins, day old bread, cookies, blah, blah, blah. What do you want? No, she was not going to be rushed. She was going to take her time. She's going to go through every single piece in her own time. And for 3 weeks while I worked at this bakery, she did this. And one day I woke up and I just thought, oh my gosh, she's going to win. Every single time she's going to win. She's going to ruin my day. Every time I see her coming in, I get tense. I get angry. I'm frustrated with her. I'm annoyed. Rachel, there's nothing you can do. Like, you cannot control this little old woman. She is a woman made of iron, and you cannot sway her. So I just decided, like, I'm in charge of me, and I am not going to have my day ruined by this lady. So the next time she came in, watched for her car, went out to meet her, opened her car door and was like, Mrs. Smith, I'm so happy to see you. We have some great stuff on our day old rack. Come in, open the door for her, put a chair down in front of the day old rack, and said, now, first, let me go through the muffins. This muffin, this muffin, this one, right? Now the bread, now the cookies, whatever. And she was so delighted. She was so happy. She's like, oh, that looks good. So we have took me the same amount of time, 4-minute exchange. She's sitting down. I'm like, can I get you some coffee? She decides what she's going to order, take her packages out. She leaves. And I remember standing in the bakery and being like, I won. Like, I have figured out the way that this woman is not going to be the thing I talk about around my dinner table every single day because she makes me crazy. It is a great example of saying, I am focusing my energy on this person who I have no control over, instead of just saying, I'm in charge of me. I'm not going to get mad. I'm going to meet this challenge. I'm going to figure out the way that I can have a good day afterwards. And the truth is, then I started looking forward. Every day she came in, we had a little sit down with her coffee, and I showed her the day old stuff. And she became a highlight of my day. That became something that I look forward to. I tell you that story to say, you are in control of you. And there are things that you are spending your energy on right now, which, let's just be honest, they're going to win every single time. Every time you think about that thing, it makes you mad. It makes you frustrated. You feel the emotion and the stress come up, and there's nothing to be done about it, except that you are in charge of you and you control your feelings and how you respond and what you do. In fact, you're in charge of a lot of things. So if you think through this idea of what you can control, you are in charge of your attitude, You are in charge of breathing, which I find this to be really helpful when I'm feeling really angry and like, why am I focusing my energy on something I can control? I'm like, hey, I can control my breathing. That's one thing I'm definitely in charge of. This list of things for you to look through where you start to expend your energy in a place where you're frustrated with administration because they're not telling you your plans. You're frustrated because you have partners on campus who are not being responsive, or they're not carrying their weight, or they're not doing what you asked them to do. You're frustrated because you don't understand why people are making the decisions they're making, or you're dealing with people who are just going to be who they're going to be and there's nothing you can do about it. This is a list of things where you can come back to center and say like, hey, I'm really in charge of me and I do have things that I can be in control of. And that's really where I'm going to spend my energy, because you taking care of yourself is a really important piece of how you're going to be able to be successful and walk on through the fall and impact your students for good and make sure that they feel connected and they feel cared for. You absolutely have to control the things within yourself that you can. So you guys know that I usually give you a long list of action items, like make new partners. What else are you going to do? Write down this list. Okay, we're going to be super simple with our action items today. I would really love for you to write down, what are the things that you are spending your energy on? All of them. What are the things that you're worried about? Are we going to have to wear masks? Are we doing vaccines? Are we going to be doing social distancing? Will we open in person? Are people thinking about how we're going to get our student support services to our students? All of the things that you are worrying about, please write them down. And then I want you to put a little star next to the things that you have control of. That's going to be super helpful, because all of those other things we're going to put in that quadrant, which is like, I'm not in charge of this. I'm spending energy in a way that is not productive. And then lastly, what matters to you most on this list and what can you do about it? So if that is, I want to be really present for my students, okay, then you have to think about what is in your control that's going to allow you to be really present for your students. If your family's sort of health and safety and cohesiveness is most important, what can you do to make that more probable and possible? What can you control there? What are the things that are most important to you, and how are you going to exert your control over those things? So you come back to a place where you feel like, yes, I'm not in charge of everything, but I am in charge of my attitude, and I am focusing my energy and my effort in places where it's not going to be wasted. It's not just spinning my wheels. It's actually going to make a difference. All right, you guys, that is my sermon for you today. Please focus on the places that you can make a difference and let that other stuff go, because it's just exhausting and it's not going to be helpful. We are at the very beginning of August. I know so many of you have about 2 weeks left, maybe 3 weeks left before school starts. On August 17th, don't forget that we are going to start our Vincent Tinto series, where we go over the article where he talks about conditions for student success. He wrote it specifically for first year experience, but we're going to kind of lay it out for all of college experience. So August 17th is when that series is going to start. If you want to do your homework, Rachel is going to chat to you the article that is going to be the basis for that series. So if you want to get that and look through it first, I'd love for you to do that. We also may be posting that on LinkedIn and some other places. The title is Taking Student Success Seriously, Rethinking the First Year of College, and it's by Vincent Tinto. And he breaks down their commitment, expectations, support, feedback, involvement, and learning. So we'll take a week to look at each of those different things. And then we'll have Anthony kind of woven in between each of those things. Anthony's going to join me next week. So that is always an adventure. If you have any questions that you want me to ask him, please send them, because as I said to Matt from Iona the other day, like my list, I think I have 40 more questions, and then we're going to have to discontinue. I don't know what I'm going to do about it. So if you have questions that you want to send me, please do. Also, friends, if you have topics that you want for us to cover on Cap and Gown, if you would like to recommend a guest, I would love to hear about people you know who are doing amazing things in our field. If you have ideas or outbursts, if you have kind words, any of that, we're really happy to hear from you. We want this to be crafted so that it, again, is a useful time for you and that it's not just a bunch of stuff, but stuff that's really going to be actionable for you and is going to help you as you're going into your week. So please, I'm happy for you to send those to me, Rachel@ferrisresources.com. I'd love to hear anything that you have to say. In the meantime, we're at Tuesday in the beginning of August. So I know that so many of you, it's like your first week back at work. Some of you, it's your first week back in the office. We talked to a client today, it's like 17 months they haven't been in their office. So I know that there's a lot of things going on for you and a lot of transitions, but just know that we're thinking about you and we want to be great partners for you. And if there's anything we can do to be helpful, please let me know. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me. You have a couple of extra minutes because I went short today. So please go find something that will energize you and do that for the next 15 minutes so that you can face the rest of your day. Good to spend time with you. Happy Tuesday.